Hey guys, real quickly before today's video starts, I would just like to let you guys know that I'm hosting a giveaway once again. Now this giveaway will be a £15 off code for the shop Night Addict. Now Night Addict is a designer clothes like store in which you can buy many cool t-shirts on it, such as this one and many others, including this one, which I do really like. Now the code gives you £15 off any purchase you make, as long as it is over £15, so you won't be able to get this one for free, unfortunately. You'll have to spend it on something of around this price, or maybe even this price here. So just to let you guys know that this giveaway will be ending on Friday the 9th of February 2018, and to enter, all you need to do is comment on this video or any other video with this intro in it saying Night Addict, and then you'll instantly be entered. On the final day of the giveaway, at around 9 PM GMT, I will put everyone's name into a little spinny wheel. No matter how many times you comment, you can only enter once. I'll put everyone's name into a little spinner wheel. I'll spin the wheel, and whoever it lands on gets the code. So thank you guys for listening to this quick little intro, and good luck if you enter. Without further ado, enjoy the video. Finding Nemo is a film made by Disney Pixar in 2003, and many people love this film, including myself. It's one of the best films of all time in my opinion. Now, but this video here that's playing in the background is called A Lesson in Flashbacks. Now, this video is interesting as you can find it on the DVD Blu-ray version of Finding Nemo, and I personally think it's very interesting to see what Finding Nemo could have been like if they stuck to the original formula of the film. So in today's video, we're going to be discussing what Finding Nemo could have been. Enjoy. Now what we're going to be looking at first is how they decided to introduce Marlin to us. Now in the full version of the film, we are introduced to him straight away and why he's grumpy. But in this version, it shows to us like what happened to him gradually over time. Now I think this would have been a bit more interesting, so I'm going to show you the first flashback.
Backstory in pieces, and the movie's about the father, so I really wanted to have you understand sort of the whole journey that he had gone through and the sacrifice that he had made to be where he was at as a father. I started the first flashback at the beginning of the movie with just love at first sight. Hello. Really? No, I think that's a very pretty name.
Well, I swim a lot. Pectorals like these don't come naturally, you know.
Each one of these flashbacks would be sort of an emotional moment. It wouldn't be so much intellectual as it was just how it feels to have those moments happen. Hello.
Hello.
The movie would go on a little later, and then you would suddenly see them as a couple.
So in this clip that you've just watched, we see how Marlin met Nemo's mother, and I personally think that this would have been a whole lot more interesting as a concept, because we don't see how they met. We just see that they're obviously a loving couple with a crap ton of eggs in the little grotto and stuff. But to be completely honest, I thought this would have been a little bit more interesting, because after this we get to see them move into the new home at the drop-off, which is where the original film takes place. That was released for theatrical versions, obviously. And I personally think that this intro, like I said just then, would be better, as we get to see how they meet, and not only that, we also get to see how they just fell in love at first sight. I think it'd be a bit more interesting, but now I'm going to play out the next clip for you.
Later, and then you would suddenly see them as a couple, and they're finding their first home where they're going to settle in and start a family.
Are you coming?
We're lost, aren't we?
No, we're not lost.
Honey, just ask somebody. Fine, then I'm asking the next fish because it's late and we have to get home.
Well, in that case, here we are.
You're kidding. This is ours?
Mm-hmm. We can move in immediately.
Oh, honey, it's beautiful.
Well, go on inside.
Oh, it's perfect.
And you know what the best part of it is?
What?
The view.
And then the third flashback somewhere later.
So this clip is obviously about how they moved into the new home, which is eventually where they would meet, well, where Coral and, well, kind of like Marlin as well, would meet their fate, as many would call it, as people die for a reason, as many other people say. And this is how it all started. Not obviously, well, obviously getting together, and then this moving into this spot right here, which is where the film takes place at the beginning in the drop off. Now, obviously, this anemone isn't coloured, but it should be pink like it is in the film. And also, the setting does look a tiny little bit different to what it does in the film, as I noticed. But, anyways, apart from that and the gorgeous moon CGI that is played, we're going to move on straight to the next clip.
Somewhere later in the movie would be Coral when she was pregnant and how nervous he was about being a father and how excited he was and what would that be like.
Through here. That's right. Easy. Easy. That's it. Careful. Oh, honey, look at me. I'm so nervous I can't even think straight. I mean, I can't believe it. Can you believe it? I mean, we're going to be parents. I mean, you're going to be a mommy. I'm going to be a daddy. And I'll get to say son. Good job, son. What you got there, son?
Honey?
Why, that's an octopus, son.
Honey! Time to wait outside.
Oh, right. Okay, sorry. See you later, son.
Out!
And then the fourth flashback would be them looking.
Now, this flashback is obviously about the pregnancy and how everything else takes place from there on, such as the 400 plus eggs that we eventually see in the grotto below the anemone, the little circle. And we do get to see how Marlene was flawed and nervous from this moment, not after the tragedy, but before as well. How obviously he was getting excited about his kids, but he was also nervous about being a father, as he didn't know if he was going to mess up or not. But regardless of that, Coral has her eggs, and things, just eventually go on.
And then the fourth flashback would be them looking over all these eggs and what it was like just for them to sort of watch over their kids as they slept.
They're dreaming. I could watch them all night.
Best that we don't. Honey,
Still have to name them.
I haven't forgotten.
You know what name I've always liked? Nemo.
Great. One down, only 99 more to go.
I know. It's just, I want each one to be special.
Well, then it's settled. We'll name them all special.
Oh, you're no help.
The clip that played just then is obviously about the birth of the eggs. And obviously you can see how they are really excited to be parents, as their eggs are almost ready to hatch and they are already thinking about names. Obviously there's still that comedic humour, and obviously the script is a tiny little bit different from what it was in the main film. And then later on, towards the end of the clip, we get to see, well, we don't see it yet, but we also, well, not also, but we get to have a look at how the tragedy happened as a big shadow passes over the anemone. They both look up in terror.
You're no help.
The fifth and final flashback would have been the tragedy,
What was that?
how all of the family was lost except for the father and the single son Nemo. That would counterpoint and intercut with the actual present day tragedy of the fishing net about to take Nemo out of the ocean and father losing him forever.
No! That's it! Everybody, listen to me! Swim down! Listen! Everybody listen! Coral! Coral, where are you?
was always excited about just shaking it up, just having that different pattern of watching a movie that instead of the typical A, B, and C structure.
Swim down, swim down, swim down, swim down, swim down, swim down. That's it. You can do it. Swim down.
It's working!
Down, 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 down.
And it actually kind of worked. And if you were to just watch any of those moments, or especially the climax, it really had something there.
Dory!
Dory!
But the byproduct of it that I was not expecting was you didn't like the main character. I mean, he has to be a very worried, overprotective, anxious character for the story to make sense.
There!
I was getting advice from my peers here at Pixar that why don't you just try telling this backstory at the very beginning? Just tell it linearly. And it just sort of took out the excitement for me. But after about a year and a half of just seeing people not like the father again and again and again, I couldn't ignore it. And I thought, well, it's not going to hurt to just privately try cutting it that way. And the minute I took all those moments out and put them all to the front, not only were you immediately caught up in it, but you immediately empathized with the father. And so even though for the rest of the movie, from right after that first prologue, he complained just as much, he was overprotective just as much, he was just as anxious, I didn't have to change any lines, I didn't have to change any present-day scenes. It's because you understood where he was coming from. You suddenly saw the world from his point of view, and it just made all the difference in the world.
I did everything I could.
I might...
Now, this is by far the most interesting part of the entire documentary, as we get to see how the tragedy would have played out. Obviously, instead of it just appearing there and then eventually charging up to the main two at the time and just slaughtering one of them whilst knocking the other one clean out to kill the children, it would instead just be there, you know, feasting itself. And then obviously we got Marlin trying to fight back, trying to protect his children and his future, and to see that everything's just instantly gone, and the way everything else plays out, how it attacks and all that other stuff. And with all the smoke, I personally think, well, not smoke, but dust from the sand, I personally think it's much more like intriguing, as it's a lot of it's suspense. Suspense plays out tremendously, as we don't know what's going to happen. You know, it's not very clear. It's obviously in the middle of the night instead of during the day, may I add. And the fact that it cuts back from the ending to basically the start, it's a really cool concept. And I really do wish that Finding Nemo did play out like this, as I personally think it would have made it better. And even if they do make a third film, I personally think they should make it about Marlin's entire backstory. It wouldn't be as good as for a film, but they should play it out like this and tie it into the first film. This would be brilliant. And also this scene here, where we see him swimming through the sand clouds and it just comes out of nowhere, tries to attack him. I personally think in Disney CGI, that would actually be a terrifying moment for smaller children. As not only did when I was little, this scene like kind of shocked me a bit, I personally thought that it was interesting to say the least, when obviously as I grew older and learned not to be scared of a cartoon. But now that obviously I've seen this film millions of times, and now that I've watched this documentary, I understand how the filmmakers thought that you didn't like Marlin as much, because we didn't, like, you know, it wasn't linear enough. We didn't see how everything just happened. It was eventually played out and cut off the main film. But I don't mind that, as from this part here where we actually get to see how he survived in a different way. Because in the original, like, not in the original, but because this is the original, but in the final version, he just gets knocked out. But in this version, he decides to play smart and do what he told Carl to do in the final film. So Marlin was using his brains here, and obviously towards the ending, it would have been a little bit more emotional in my opinion, as he ties Finding Nemo, like obviously on the floor, to the egg at the start of the film, like it does in the final version. But the fact that it does it in this way, I personally think it's a little bit more emotional, and the way the entire film would play out would be even more emotional. This film, if it was like this, wouldn't have had as high as a rating and as much likability. But for people who, like me, that prefer a film to be set out like this, I would have loved this film even more than I already do. This would be my favourite film for generations, probably. And it will be one of my favourite films for a long time. Until, obviously, maybe a third film comes along and tops it. Because I don't think Finding Dory quite met that, requirement. But apart from that, I do think if the film played out like this, it could have been a lot more interesting. But anyways, that's all from me for this video. Thank you for watching. If you did enjoy, please do leave a like and let me know in the comments below if you do think that Finding Nemo would have been a better film if it was, set out like this, and if you would have preferred to see a version like this, or if they make a third film to have it like this. But anyways, that's enough of my rambling. I of course hope you all did enjoy, and I will of course see you in the next video of mine. Peace out.
Thank you.